Approximately 800 million people live in poverty. Some of these people live off of less than $3 per day. Starvation and suffering occurs in almost every country, but there are many countries that uniquely struggle when looking at the well-being of its citizens. For generations, people have lived in filth. Scourging for a second meal in a day is their norm. Yet those who are willing to do nothing think it is the more moral stance. Yet it is the young ones who get to hear about lands with freedom and endless meals. It is the young who desire something more but can't break the cycle of poverty. Approximately 9 million people die from hunger and related causes worldwide each year. Major international organizations like the World Food Program note that this daily toll averages about 25,000 deaths, with a significant portion being young children. Countries spend money to help these people in poverty. What they need, however, is a cultural shift. The cycle needs to be broken. Most people can't stomach the solutions that would more than likely work. Such is the sheep's dilemma.
Guys, good morning. We are wrapping up. We are finalizing. Today we are talking about the reason that we have been talking about sheep and shepherds. So let's get right to it. We're talking about it because the American population, as a majority, are sheep. They're a people who have access to a bunch of information. They have social media, they have the freedom of the press, the freedom of speech. They have all these freedoms that allow them to decipher basic information and to make, better decisions, to make, research-based decisions, and yet they don't. Every American can know what happened historically. Every American can have a basic sense of intuition, and if they don't, they can learn it from somebody else. The nice thing about reality and nature and how the world works is it's based in, reality. Reality and nature don't really care about your feelings, right? That's why terrible things happen. That's why wars happen. That's why death happens. That's why the cycle of life continues, no matter how immoral or how wrong you think it is. Those things will continue, and there are going to be decisions that you're going to have to make based off of the evidence that you have. And if you're an American, you have really almost all of the evidence that you need to make the proper decisions to support your shepherds in America. Now, the sheep in America are the people who just vote the same political party every year. Not now exactly, because now the political parties are so different in their ideologies that you don't really have a choice but to vote the same political party every year. So it used to be that we would think, well, the sheep are the people who are voting for the same political party every year. I mean, liberals and traditional liberals and conservatives used to overlap in some of their ideologies quite a bit. Sometimes you would find liberals that held your ideals, and sometimes you would find conservatives that held your ideals, and you probably should vote according to which one held your ideals better into place. It probably wasn't the smartest decision to vote based off of party affiliation, whether you were Democrat or Republican. That's probably not the best way to vote. I think voting like that was sheepish. And so for a while there, the American population was just sheepish in that manner. But what's happened now is we have a certain percentage of Americans that cannot vote Democrat. They cannot. And then you have a certain percentage of liberals that cannot vote Republican. That is how far that their ideals have diverged. But it's not because conservatives have just drastically evolved in their ideals, even though they've changed. Everything changes. It's that liberals have become progressive liberals, and their ideals have shot out so far to the left that they've left their center, and now there just really isn't much that we can agree on. There really isn't any reason I can think of why any basic Republican with any kind of reasoning would vote for a Democrat. I really can't. So, your sheep today are the Republicans who are willing to vote Democrat. They're sheepish. That can't happen. We disagree on the fundamentals. To vote with someone who disagrees with you on the fundamentals is sheepish. Sheepish, absolutely sheepish. Here's some more sheep in society. People who think that trans women are women. That's sheepish, that's herd-like mentality. We all know that basic reality tells us that that's not the case. That isn't a factual biological possibility. So if that's what you think, well then you're sheepish. If you think in America that gay marriage actually exists definitionally, that's like having a girl in Boy Scouts. It doesn't. If you think that that exists, well then you're sheepish. You're following the herd. If you think that a baker, because he doesn't want to bake a wedding, bake a cake for a gay wedding, should get canceled and have their business ruined, maybe, well, indeed, because they're a private business, if that's what society chooses to do, but to actually try to sue them in any kind of sense is crazy. If you think that you should be able to wield the justice system against someone for not baking you a cake for your gay wedding, well then you're sheepish. You just have this stupid herd mentality and you're sheepish. You're still following? If you think that trans athletes should play, so men that think they're women now, trans women to men, I don't know, yeah. If you think that they should be able to play in women's sports, and you think that that's a good idea, that that's safe, that that's reasonable, that they should share the locker room, well then you're a sheep. If you think that those same men who go transition to being a woman, that they should go to a public restroom and share it with our little girls and little daughters, well then you're a sheep. Right? So I'm showing you who the sheep are in society. They're the sheep in society because they should know better. They're not victims. They're absolutely not victims. They have all the information that they need to come to a better conclusion. They just simply don't. They don't. Now, it's fair to say that they're brainwashed a little bit, but there's no excuse. We have freedom of the press and freedom of speech. We just simply have to hold them accountable for the really ridiculous ideals that they have. It's sheepish. If you think that late-term abortions are okay, and that a fetus, after especially viability, is still a fetus until it is birthed and is not a human, well then you're a sheep. Right? I mean, I don't know how else to tell you guys this, but yeah, these are the sheep we have in society. So you see, sheep hold certain ideals. They have certain ideas, and they want to push those in society. They are sheep because of the way they think. They're sheep because of the way they believe. You see? And a lot of people used to like to say back in the day, so what if a man and a man are sleeping together in their own room? Let them do what they do, right? They just want to be able to express themselves. We shouldn't be trying to catch them and actually arresting them for doing homosexual acts in the privacy of their own home. All they want to do is be able to be gay in their own home. And they want to be a man wants to be able to hold another man's hand in public. That's all we want. We're not asking for all these special rights, we just want the basic ones. Right? And we were like, oh, okay. Well, now they get married. Now they get married and have parades at which, they get like half naked in front of children. That's what's happening now. So these sheepish ideals and these sheepish people are detrimental to society, and they kind of eat away at the fabric of society. They kind of eat away at the institutions that should be supporting the nuclear family, that should be supporting justice, that should be supporting peace, and that should be supporting our shepherds / military members, our first responders. One thing you're going to notice about these sheep is these sheep oftentimes have difficulties with our military action abroad. These sheep often have difficulties with all the stuff we talked about, all the transports and the bakery not willing to bake a cake and all that stuff. They all commonly tend to have these similar problems. So that's why I'm calling them sheep, because they kind of go with the herd. You see, if the first line of sheep jumped off the cliff, well, they would just do it. And what I'm telling you is that saying something like men who transition into women should use the same public restrooms as little girls, well, that's jumping off a cliff. And if you support that, you're jumping off a cliff after that sheep. So you're a freaking sheep that follows the herd. Are you guys still following what I'm saying? I'm trying to explain to you what these sheep are in our stories. So if you're listening to the stories of the sheep and the shepherd and you're kind of like, man, these sheep sound really freaking dumb, well, just make sure you're not one of the freaking dumb sheep, right? There are basics to not being a dumb sheep. The basics are: 1, acknowledge reality. We must acknowledge reality. We agree that 2 + 2 = 4. We can agree on that. Basic truth, mathematical, we can agree. Why can't we say that there are biological prerequisites or biological facts that pertain to how we identify a male or a female? If 2 + 2 = 4, and that's a fact, and we can also establish biological facts, then why aren't we saying that this chromosome plus this chromosome equals a male or a female? We should still be able to track. So the first step to not being a sheep is really just being able to accept that which is just basic for you to understand. There's other things that are very basic for us to understand that we can learn in nature. For example, we know that our bodies need fuel, that we can't go 3 days without water, so we drink fluids, right? That's just basic. We know that we need fuel, so we need to eat food. We need resources, and we have to acquire those resources. Well, that's just basic. We know that we have to work for resources, and that we have to get those resources by some means. Basic. We also know that there are other animals, that there are other people that exist, and that we have to share or we have to trade our resources. Still following? All these things are basic. We know that humans are capable of great violence. And when humans group together, begin to build social groups, then societies, the institutions, the militaries, we understand that there will be world conflicts, and that we're going to have to be involved, and that we're going to have to fight in a world conflict. Because it is just basic reality that is what the human existence will boil down to, is the next conflict that we have to win. We have to be prepared, and we have to accept the fact that part of our reality and our existence are worldly conflicts. Conflicts that mean loss, conflicts that are terrible to see, terrible to experience. They hurt our families. They cause the loss of our loved ones. But that is just basic reality. I'm arguing here that most of the European countries and a lot of isolationist Americans are sheep because they're willing to ignore that basic fact. They're going to come back and they're going to say, well, no, we're actually willing to attack someone if they attack us. We're just not willing to go out and take preventative measures or be involved in certain conflicts that aren't within our interest. Well, how is it not basic reality that if I'm in the tribe Navajo and in the tribe Bihu over here, the Bihu tribe is my enemy, and then my other tribe, not Yoho, is freaking my ally, and Bihu tribe threatens me, I don't know, hates me for what the frick ever reason, and my ally says, you know what, we're tired of their shit. We're taking them out. Why would it not be in my interest to help my allied and my fellow trade partner in decreasing the amount of enemies that I have? That's just basic reality. The basic reality for humans is we have to decrease the number of enemies that we have. Right? We don't want to allow our neighboring tribes to grow their populations. That becomes problematic for us when neighboring tribes build their populations. Well, then they can be our adversary if they're not willing to be our ally. Well, what makes someone an ally versus our adversary? Well, it happens to be a lot of times religion, ideals, ethics, or morals. A lot of times allies of countries such as America and UK, America and Britain, Hungary and Croatia. A lot of these countries, people can intermingle with each other. They could move to each other's country and they could still maintain the social fabric that they built. They could still maintain their culture. Assimilation would be pretty simple, pretty easy, and pretty quick. Us Western countries have the same ideals, very similar morals, very similar ethics. We are able to integrate into each other's societies. It happens to be that a lot of our adversaries are our adversaries because we differ in our morals, our ethics, and our religion. That's why it is difficult for Western nations to have a large population of Haitians just coming to Florida, or Muslims coming into, was it Spain? It is difficult because they come from such a different religion, a different culture, that assimilation is really difficult, if not almost impossible. Why would we ignore that that's not the case? If you think that allowing in 10,000 Muslims, 5,000 Muslims, just willy-nilly, without proper vetting to ensure that they don't have ties to the Muslim Brotherhood or whatever terrorist group that they might, is a good idea, well then, you're a sheep. You're a sheep. Why? Well, we can see the patterns of behaviors within the Muslim communities. Why? Well, because here's the reality. I would never want my daughter to go to Afghanistan or Iran or Palestine or Syria or a lot of other Muslim nations. Maybe Saudi Arabia. That's a maybe. Probably freaking not. If I don't want my daughter to go there, I sure as hell don't want them coming here so they can be next to my daughter. That's just the honest truth. So if you think, wow, I would never want to live there, I would never want to raise my daughter there, I wouldn't want my son to become part of what they're doing, yeah, I want to support them, I want to say blah, blah, blah. Well, you're a freaking sheep. You're a sheep. Now, there are countries in which we can have different ideals from and still assimilate pretty well. I think one example of that is perhaps Indian countries, India or China or Japan. We're kind of very different. I think they all have their own different, India's like Hindu. I don't remember what China's main religion really is. I think they're mostly secular. But let's consider that just another religion. But anyways, you kind of get what I'm saying here. So we can have people come from India and they come to America. They're very different than our culture. They have very different customs, but they assimilate quite well. They do pretty good. We can have Chinese people, Japanese people, I don't know, Mongolian people who come to America. And you know what? They assimilate quite well. They do really good. Why is that those people do so well in America? We have people migrate from Israel. Jews do great in America. They do amazing. We don't have any problem with them. The only problem we have with them is they're AIPAC members. Oh yeah, and remember that the vast majority, if not every single one of the members of AIPAC, that group in America, the lobbyist group that we're blaming for all our problems, by the way, they're all American. Right? But yeah, they're American Jews. Yeah. But anyhow, you get what I'm saying here. We can assimilate with a lot of different people. But there are cultures, there are religions, and there are people that we know we will have a more difficult time assimilating with. And it happens to be that we've had more conflicts with those people. That's just basic reality. Well, people are so sheepish that we have to go all the way back and use prehistoric examples of why you shouldn't allow a neighboring tribe to accumulate resources and to populate past your own population so as to doom your own culture. That's just basic reality. The basics of reality is that war is coming. Conflicts are coming. And we can take preventative measures to ensure that during every conflict, we don't lose 20,000 or 40,000 people, rather we lose hundreds. We can do that. Why won't we do that? How is it not in America's interest to take preventative measures, not allowing our adversaries to grow in power, to accumulate resources, especially to accumulate nuclear technologies? We already have to deal with China and Russia and North Korea, who are fully nuclear. We already have to deal with them. We have to deal with the big three, and we got the freaking French, we got Hungary, we got, who the frick else, Britain. I mean, that's who we got? Really? Versus China, Russia? Like, what the frick, man? I want you to understand something here. I'm not dogging on Europeans. Europeans do a lot of things better than we do. And we're going to talk about some of that when we talk more about our domestic affairs. But our focus really has been the foreign affairs. When it comes to foreign affairs, European people, not just as a people, but as a nation, are sheep. They're a sheepish people. They don't spend what they should on their military. They don't really do anything for anybody else who might need help, like other third world countries. They're not known for their charitability. Not really. Not really. But what they do is they take care of their own people. But they're not willing to take care of their own people through taking preventative measures. If a war was to occur and Russia was to attack Hungary or Croatia or the UK, imagine the amount of people that they would lose. Imagine. Look up how many people have died in this war between Ukraine and Russia. Look up how many people have died in just Ukraine. What if they attacked Hungary or Croatia in that sense? Well, then then everyone says, you got NATO. NATO's gonna do something. What if America left NATO? What would happen then? What What if America joined China for whatever reason, and Russia and North Korea, who are already countries who are okay with expanding, who are okay with the loss of a few lives, that's for sure, and we decided to take over whoever we wanted, whenever we wanted? Who's gonna stop us? Who's gonna stop us? Who would stop us? The rest of the Western European countries would be the kind of countries that would survive because of the mercy of other countries. If America and Russia and China, you know, the group I'm talking about right now, decided that you're no longer going to have the culture you have, we're going to occupy your country, what would France do? What the frick is Canada gonna do? What would they do? Really, I mean, what are they gonna do? So all these Europeans just talk shit about America. They talk all this crap. What if we left? What if we decided not to support them no matter what happened? What if we didn't support Ukraine? What if we didn't support Israel? What if we don't support other European nations that might get attacked for whatever reason, and they will? What if we didn't support them? What would happen? You should ask yourself that. You really should. The fact that we can say that if America was to stop supporting and to stop involving themselves with the European nations, and if America said that we will not be supporting NATO members during another conflict, that could be detrimental to the European countries, shows what sheep they are. The European countries should be able to say, if the United States left and we got attacked by Russia or China, we would be able to withstand this. They can't say that. Are you guys kidding me? Are you guys kidding me? They can't say that. Their militaries are jokes. They're sheep. They're really freaking sheep. I don't understand why they're laughing. I don't understand why such a weak people think something like this is funny. It's really not funny to be that weak. The battles that they don't prepare for, their children will die over. 100%. And a lot of them will. But most of the people that screwed over that generation who's going to die in those wars, well, they won't be here. So what will it have mattered? That's the next generation's problem. That's my great-grandchildren's problem. How effed, man. Absolutely effed. Think about it.